So, despite being an automotive technician, I'm actually not all that much into tools. I'm not the kind of person to buy something because it looks cool or because it's trendy, and I tend to stick with a strict basis of if I need it, I'll buy it, and if I don't, I won't. That brings in this little dude. This is my Mac Tools SM38 PTO. I got it a while back, and it cost me like $240. It's a mini toolkit that has just about everything you need for small repairs, and for the past 3 years, it's been an absolute powerhouse relative to its size. As you can tell from the state of it, it's been abused quite a bit. The case is cracked, it's missing a few items, and the ratchet has been warranted a couple of times. So why am I mentioning this, especially considering I'm a fabrication channel? Well, today I was at Lowe's for some random items for the ball crushing factory, and I happened across this Kobalt mini toolkit for $20. When I saw it, I was like, oh, hey, that's neat. It looks familiar though. Kinda like my $240 Mac set. So, $20 later, here we are. If you didn't know, Kobalt and Mac are owned by the same parent company, and I'm not saying that all Mac tools are basically rebranded Kobalt, but occasionally you do find some similar items, and in this case, it looks like they decided to copy a Mac design and sell it under the Kobalt name for like 12 times less. So, let's take a look. Wow. So, starting off, both cases are basically the same build quality, but there are two main differences. This one's orange, this one's blue, this one's smaller, this one's larger. That's really about it. By the way, I'm not like hiding my face, I'm just not particularly interesting. Wow. So inside, I will point out that the Mac Tools is overall way nicer quality, like no doubt about it. But aside from that, however, what are the differences? Well, starting off, the Kobalt set has both metric and SAE. The Mac can only be bought with a single set. This is great for if you work on something with SAE, but 99% of the time I'm working on something, it's metric, so I actually kind of prefer the smaller size of the Mac set, but depending on your use case, this could be a huge bonus. Next up, the Mac sockets have a non-slip design, and the Kobalts don't, so they might slip a little bit earlier than the Mac sockets. Real world use, Jesus, that is hard to say for some reason. In real world use, I've never really come across something that was so stripped that I needed these over a normal socket, but if you're paying $240, it's kind of nice to have, I suppose. One of the most notable things about the sets is the screwdriver and the ratchet. The Mac ratchet is significantly slimmer than the Kobalt one, but funny enough, the Mac screwdriver is actually a tiny bit larger than the Kobalt version. I prefer the Mac versions, but I will admit that the added bulk of the Kobalt ratchet kind of makes it a bit comfortable in the hand. Significantly more comfortable than this piece of shit anyways. Like, sometimes I'm really cranking down on a bolt and I can feel it digging into my palms, and it's like, yeah, in 30 years I'm definitely gonna have some sort of hand issue, but I'm not 50 yet, so it's whatever. Up at the accessories, while the extensions are the same size, the Kobalt U-joint is a tiny bit longer, as well as you're not able to tighten the pins, so the Mac version is way better. Surprisingly enough though, the extensions on the Kobalt are way better since they have knurling, which seems like a nitpick, but when you're balls deep in an engine bay, covered in oil, and the only way to loosen a bolt is to spin it out by hand, the extra grip makes a huge difference. Mac actually knew this because they put knurling on the sockets, but why they didn't add this to the extensions is past me. Next up is the bits. Yeah, they're the same. I genuinely can't tell a difference. I've pulled these things out, compared them side by side, taken measurements, and they're the same. So, yeah. Oh, Jesus. The final difference is in the case itself. I could explain it to you, but it's just way easier to show it to you. So, Mac set, easy. Kobalt set. There we go. Yeah, so as you can tell, this thing has a gorilla grip on the sockets for like no reason at all. Now, one of the reasons that the Mac sockets may come out easier is just because it's old and worn out, kind of like me after a Friday night, but even when it was new, I never remember having to reach for a set of pliers to pull the sockets out. The only exception to that would be these extensions, which, as you can tell, are kind of rough to pull out, but I mean, they still come out pretty easy. If you're having this issue with the Kobalt set, you could probably just sand these tabs down a little and it'll make it easier to pull out your stuff, but with the sockets, you're just kind of out of luck. You're probably just going to have to keep using them until they loosen up. So yeah, now that we've looked at all the differences, which of these socket sets would I take? The Kobalt, obviously. Seriously, I could buy 12 of these guys for the price of one of these. It's even got a lifetime warranty. Plus, you don't have to wait for the tool truck to come around. If you're also not a motive tech, you know the struggle that is having a broken socket. It's like Friday afternoon, Matt guy hasn't come around yet, and you just really want to go home, so you have to sit around and wait for him. And then, just to fuck with you, he never shows up. So yeah, if you like this, feel free to subscribe, because you're going to see a lot of this thing in projects, including a plasma cutter guide, a stainless steel skid plate from a motorcycle, and one day a titanium exhaust for the nanomobile. So yeah, I'll see y'all next week, and take care.